Hi. In my last video, I made a tier list of predictions made in 1923 about the year 2023, and it turned out that people were pretty good at predicting the future 100 years ago. But to be fair, the world they lived in wasn't that different from the world we live in today. They already had stuff like electricity, cars, airplanes, or Canada, so they could just use the trends that were present back then, like electricity and radio making our life easier, cars and airplanes becoming faster and more reliable, or Canada being a place where people live, and extrapolate it to the future and say, well, in the future, there will be more of that same stuff. And they could not have been very incorrect by doing that. So it is pretty cool that they were close at predicting the future, but not really impressive. What would be really impressive is if someone from like 500 years ago predicted the events of 2023 correctly. Well, good news is there is such a guy. His name is Nostradamus, and in 1555 he wrote a book filled with almost 1,000 prophecies. And people seem to really like them, because Nostradamus and his prophecies are still very popular up until this day. So there is no way his predictions are incorrect. They've got to be good, otherwise people would have forgotten about him many years ago, right? So let's check it out. Let's look at a random article titled, "What are Nostradamus' predictions for 2023? Among other things, the soothsayer predicts a mission to Mars, the resignation of Pope Francis, and a new world order in the new year." Okay, so first of all, soothsayer is a funny word because I don't think there is anything particularly soothing about these predictions. But what's more important is that I don't think any of that happened. I mean, Pope Francis definitely didn't resign, and I didn't notice any significant change in the world order last year. Not so sure about mission to Mars. Let me Google it. So, if I search for Mission to Mars 2023, I get this featured snippet that says a project to send humans to Mars by 2023 is now underway. The astronauts will be chosen from around the world in an open competition, and the project will be financed by selling the rights to televise the entire mission in real time. From crew training to Mars landing. Okay, alright, so I think I know about this project, and I also know that it was created like a decade ago and abandoned a few years after that. So this is very old news, and yeah, if we click upon the article, it is almost exactly 10 years old. So I have a question to Google. What the heck? This featured snippet is worded in a way that implies that this thing is real and ongoing, and there is nowhere an indication that the article was written 10 years ago. I mean, even regular search results have timestamps. Why not include a timestamp in the featured snippet? I know it's curated by AI or whatever, but I'm sure you can add the timestamp to this thing so that people at least would understand that this is old news and there might have been some updates since then. But I'm getting sidetracked here. Let's scroll down to see if there are any other results. Another article titled "NASA to send 4 humans to live on Mars from June 2023 is lying in the title. They straight up lying. Because if you scroll a little bit, you realize that nobody is going to live on Mars in 2023. It's just an experiment conducted in the desert where people would live in conditions somewhat similar to what would happen on Mars. So that was just a lie as well, and I think we can stop there. Based on my research, there was no Mars mission in 2023. And Nostradamus was completely incorrect. Unless his superpower was not to see the future as it is, but instead to see Google feature snippets and clickbait article titles from the future. Which is a weirdly specific superpower, but very impressive that he could do that. Okay, let's read the whole article. I'm sure there will be some good predictions there. Alright, in the beginning the article says that Nostradamus wrote his book 500 years ago, and people say that a lot of his predictions came true. Not only did he predict some events of his time, but also stuff like nuclear bombs, so that's very cool. The most recent episode linked to the book was the death of the Queen of England in September 2022 and the coronation of Charles III. After the sudden death of the first character, it will be changed and they will put another in his kingdom, his words roughly translate to. Okay, so this was the most unnatural way of describing a royal succession that I've ever seen. I mean, if the aliens decided to inform humanity that their hive queen died and they now have a new one, they would probably put it like that. Also, I wouldn't exactly describe Queen Elizabeth's death as sudden. I think there were some signs, like her being almost 100 years old and in poor health. But okay, let's assume that Nostradamus was correct in predicting that event in 2022. What about 2023? Let's look at the list. The first one is Pope Francis' resignation. Well, that obviously didn't happen. The second is explosion of a nuclear bomb and climate change. This will cause a great depopulation in many countries, especially in Europe. Again, a complete miss. I mean, climate change exists and it does affect what happens in Europe, but I don't think it's causing great depopulation and there was no nuclear war. So that was incorrect. At least the article is a bit self-aware. We can continue to copy-paste that one every 12 months. Wait a second. How can you continue to copy-paste this one every 12 months if the prediction is about a particular year? Okay, let me do some research. Right, I am very silly. So, I did some research and apparently most of Nostradamus' predictions do not even have dates. They are just like, some people will do something. It can happen next year, it can happen 1,000 years from now. I don't know, I just came up with that, give me a break. And the ones that do have explicit dates are very incorrect. The most famous one is the prediction that on the 4th of July 1999, some evil Antichrist guy will come from the sky and the world will basically end. I don't think that happened. Alright, we will not let this information distract us from reading the article. Let's continue. Mission to Mars. In a fragment of his prophecies, he suggests that a light would fall on Mars. Well, I think this prediction was correct, because it talks about a light falling on Mars, and light from the sun and the stars did fall on Mars in 2023. It has been doing that for billions of years and will continue to do so for billions of years in the future, but it's not incorrect. So props to Nostradamus. He successfully predicted something. Let's continue. Great crisis in the United States. The seer is said to have predicted more conflicts in 2023, as well as instability and social discontent in the great country of the North. More Ctrl-V action, it seems. Alright, your self-awareness is officially no longer cute. It's quite annoying, actually. If you realize that you are just copying and pasting the same vaguely threatening predictions year after year, maybe you should stop doing that? I mean, even if you don't believe in any of that, it doesn't mean that you cannot write an entertaining and original article on that topic. There are almost 1,000 predictions in the book. You certainly can find some original ones every year. But, okay, I understand that this article was probably written by some underpaid and overworked copywriter who wasn't paid enough to care about the quality. Let's go to the final prediction. The New World Order. It refers to the union of two forces, one masculine and the other feminine. In words of Nostradamus, their alliance will be short-lived, as will its good effects. That makes very little sense. But I would still count it as a hit, because it might have happened, just their alliance was so short-lived that nobody noticed that it happened. Right, that article was pretty bad. It almost made Nostradamus look like a guy who wrote down his random thoughts while high. And then, many generations later, we take these thoughts way too seriously. But that can't be right. We just need a better source of information on Nostradamus. And I think I found one. The History Channel. both Nostradamus and the year 2023 are history now, and as we know, the History Channel is the best, most trustworthy source of information on anything history related. So let's read the article, Predictions for 2023, what's going to happen this year. And the first prediction we see is about 7-month Great War. And yes, that looks like something that started in 2023, especially if you read the whole text of the prophecy, which contains this line. Rouen and Evreux, which are cities located in northern France, will not fall to the king. And that is spot on, because I don't think the conflict in the Middle East will somehow spill over to France and cause these cities to fall to any king. So that was a correct prediction. What's next? Nostradamus alluded to a surge in living costs, writing, "So high will the bushel of wheat rise that man will be eating his fellow man." You know what? I don't think Nostradamus was alluding to groceries and YouTube Premium becoming more expensive in 2023. I think he was literal. Because in his time, actual hunger, where there was no food at all and people died because of that, was a regular thing that just happened from time to time. There is no reason for him to make a metaphor out of this. I mean, nobody looks at this prediction of 7-month Great War and thinks, here Nostradamus alludes to this TikTok thing between kids who pretend to be fairies and kids who pretend to be fairy hunters. We kind of just assume that he was talking about literal war, right? Because we know that literal wars are going on right now. But we do not hear about hunger that much. And that's why the author of this article decided that Nostradamus was alluding to our surging living costs. But we'll never know. Maybe he was metaphorical. Maybe he was alluding to something that will happen, I don't know, 500 years from now? Something like this. Hey, comrade lover, how's it going? Hey, sweetheart. You know, it's not going so well. What's wrong, babe? Well, life is just so hard. Like, in the morning, I wanted to eat a whole cake, you know? And I asked the food replicator to generate me one. And you know what it did? What did it do? It said that it had to install some stupid software update or something, and I had to wait for like 2 whole minutes to get my cake. And you know the worst thing? I was so frustrated by the time this update was installed and my cake materialized that I didn't even want to eat this cake anymore. Oh no, babe, that's horrible. I think Nostradamus was alluding to that when he said, "So high will the bushel of wheat rise that the man will be eating his fellow man." No, I don't think he did. None of that happened. No, you don't understand. It's a metaphor. Like, wheat, for example, is not literal wheat. It can be any food. In your case, cake. Okay. Then the price. You know, our society does not use money anymore, but you know that ancient proverb, time is money? Yeah, I heard about that. I don't know what it means though, because I have no concept of money. Well, silly you. It means that time is the same thing as money. So you spent 2 whole minutes waiting for the cake, and since time equals money, that means you spent a whole lot of money on the cake. The cake was very expensive. Oh, I see now. And what about man eating his fellow man? Well, that part is problematic. You see, back in Nostradamus times, they did not discover all the genders yet. They thought there were only men back then. Eventually humanity discovered women, and then all the other genders, but back then, man was simply a synonym for human. Oh, I see. Yeah, that makes total sense. But what about eating fellow men? Yeah, that's a metaphor too. It's like sexual eating. Like when you are having sex and you put some part of your partner in your mouth, that's what he was referring to. I gotta say, this whole situation does make me want to eat you right now. If you know what I'm saying. I'm using a metaphor. Oh yes. Come here, lover comrade. Yep. You cannot prove that Nostradamus was not alluding to that situation. Okay, I think that's enough of Nostradamus' prophecies. Are they correct? Not really. But are they vague enough so that you could link any of them to a bunch of historical events? Yes. But do they help us to be prepared, at least emotionally, to the events to come? No. But do they help the Yellow Press to create meaningless clickbait articles, rehashing the same vaguely threatening things year after year after year? Yes. The History Channel article is not finished yet though, so let's scroll down a little bit to see if there is anything good in there. When the Cold War ended in the late 20th century, many pundits believed we had reached the end of history. Oh no, that would have been horrible for the History Channel. I mean, if history has ended, what are they going to make shows about? Some random bullshit about aliens? Or, I don't know, just people buying used junk? Right. So, I will conclude this video by talking about this nerdy quote that The Guardian cites. The point of prophecy is not to give you tip-offs about share price fluctuations, but to be able, after the event, to affirm that they were foreseen. Basically, the proper way to enjoy Nostradamus' prophecies is not by thinking that they can help you to predict the future events. And in fact, if you try to do that, you might regret it. Like this Nostradamus expert guy who spent supposedly a lot of money on a bunker in the Alps somewhere to try and hide from the apocalypse in 1999, which obviously didn't happen. Instead, they should be used to get this little bit of excitement. After some event happens, you can find a prophecy which looks like was talking about this event. And then you can point to that and say, hey, did you know that Nostradamus actually predicted that? That's so cool. I think there is no harm in that. Is there harm in writing clickbait articles about how next year we'll see a nuclear war depopulating Europe? Yes. Stop with that. We have enough real bad news. We don't need to also worry about made-up ones. Alright, I think it's time to wrap this video up. Thank you so much for watching, beautiful person. If you like this video, I will see you in the next one, where I will talk about the most popular social media app that nobody uses. If you didn't like this video, that's okay. There are billions of videos on this website. I'm sure you will find something that you will enjoy eventually. Just keep looking. Bye bye.